And welcome, everyone. I'm Bill Newell, joined by Phil Stacey, Matt Williams, Nick Giannino, Nick Kukuru. And here we are, post-Christmas, closing out 2020. And I know there's a bunch of things.
Willie and I are in the holiday spirit still. I mean, geez.
I know.
Guys.
Well, we changed out of the Christmas garb, right? Right, Nick Kukuru? Right, Kooks?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know. All three of my kids are on vacation. I'm already out of the holiday spirit. So hours for that to happen.
Well, I don't know where we begin here, but we're inching closer and closer to the start. And well, some winter sports has started, but maybe an update from you guys on where we stand right now with high school winter sports here on the North Shore. Phil, you want to lead us off here?
Yeah. So talk with Jimmy Quinlan from Bishop Fenwick hockey coach. Story online in today's this morning's paper anyway that they start tonight, Saturday night, against St. Mary's of Lynn, which is their arch rivals. And the prevailing sense that I get is, much like the fall coaches, but maybe even ratchet it up a little bit because these games are indoors. I think these coaches are happy with whatever games they get. They certainly are hoping for a full season, full by 2021 year standards. For Fenwick, I think that's like 14 to 15 games, but it begins tonight. We all know that one positive case is going to shut down a team, so you hope to go for as long as you can, and you hope that everybody stays safe and all. Fenwick, lost a bit of scoring from last year. They had a real good team last year where they I think they graduated 6 forwards and 9 players altogether. They lost like 55 of the 72 goals they had a year ago. So they're going to need some young guys to step up offensively. They get a lot of juniors up front. One of the few seniors, Cam Martin, is back. He should be a big-time point producer for them up front with Liam Hill, Max Vieira, Nick Sasso, another guy I know they're counting on up front. Defense is where they will make their bones. With Gavin Bell and Aiden Anthony, 2 captains. They got Kinnery Muniz is back there, among some other guys, both goalies. Dylan Bloom.
Good golfer there. You mentioned Gavin Bell. He's a golfer.
Yeah. Gavin Belt is a hockey captain, yes.
Very nice.
Got Jack Vieira and Dylan Bloom back in net, so 2 goalies with experience, along with a transfer from Pentucket. I know they're going to look to try to get some action. Brady McClung. So Fenwick has a pair of games this weekend. They're at St. Mary's tonight. They're Bishop Feenan tomorrow. I think, as I wrote, you'll see Vieira gets the start tonight. Bloom gets the start tomorrow afternoon. And it's just going to be good to, personally for me, to see some hockey again. It's been 9+ months. Socially distanced in the rink. Not many parents are going to be allowed in there. I think we'll have an intimate gathering of about 25 people, aside from the players and the coaches. One thing I did notice before I keep rambling on here, in talking with Jimmy, it's a lot different in that when players come off the ice, it's not as though he can talk with them after a shift or devise strategy for their next shift or things like that. They're going off the ice, and in most cases, going into the stands in like a group of 5 or so. So the next group that's going to be coming on the ice can sit on the bench. So there's not going to be that in-game communication that you see a lot of times in hockey. It's going to be a lot different coaching-wise. It's going to be a lot different playing-wise. We shall wait and see what happens. But it'll be good to have some sports back.
Jim Quinlan, a great name from Saugus High School in the past, player there at Saugus High School many years ago, with some very successful, when Saugus was a real powerhouse in North Shore hockey for sure. Great, rich tradition of hockey there in Saugus, and he was a big part of that. Yeah.
Well, and the world we live in now, I just tell my phone to call Jim Quinlan, right? I don't even dial it. And somehow it dialed his son, Eric Quinlan, instead. And Eric was a fantastic defenseman on a couple of those state championship teams that Saugus had. He and Brian Hardigan were probably 2 of the best public school defensemen I've seen in 30 years. They were just absolute rocks on that mainstay. But Eric just became an NHL player agent. Eric had his own agency, BMG, like a scouting service. I'm sorry, not a scouting service. He scouted players, and would represent them and all. But he merged with another fellow from out in Minnesota this past summer who has some NHL clients. So now Eric got certified to be an NHL agent, mostly college guys now that he has, but he's, hoping to get some guys who play professionally now. So it was good to catch up with Eric and get some of the, we were just trading hockey stories and what he thinks might go on this year with, say, like the AHL and things like that. So comes some good stock. And Jim and I diverted, and we were talking about grandparents that grew up in Charlestown and what a small world it was and all. So it was a nice time for a couple of old Irish guys.
There you go. Kooks, any hockey news from the Cape Ann area?
Just still preseason practices. I know they're scheduled to start January 9th against Peabody over at the Talbot rink. So I haven't heard that has changed at the moment. So, that's basically what I'm looking forward to. And Rockport just got started this week. So I know Rockport High, their basketball teams got started last week. Hockey just started this week. So they only got about, a week of practice under their belt so far. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see them both. Both had good seasons last year. Both got some, talent coming back. Gloucester's going to have to replace its goalie. I know Phil mentioned Jack Vieira. He was in Gloucester a couple of years backing up Connor Vitans, and there wasn't much of a difference when he'd get into the game. So he was real good. Gloucester probably could have used him this year. So we'll see who they go with. But they got some guys back.
If I'm not mistaken, Kooks, I think Rockport's scheduled to open up with Hamilton Wenham on the 5th, if that's right.
6th, I think it was.
Yeah, Wednesday, 5th or the 6th, somewhere there, down at Talbot.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they got a quicker turnaround than most, but that's been a good game too. Rockport Hamilton Wenham has been pretty evenly matched the last 4 or 5 years, so that should be a good one.
I don't know if we mentioned too last week, Bill, that speaking of that Cape Ann hockey, Amesbury will not be fielding a team this year. So that's a team that both Hamilton Wenham and Rockport would be playing a couple of times. So now that's just an empty void on the schedule. I'm not really sure if they're going to be able to fill that or not. It doesn't appear that that'll be the case. I think they're playing only Cape Ann League opponents. So if you can't play those teams, you don't play unless they schedule another game with each other or something like that.
Gotcha. Matt, what about in girls hockey? What's the latest news on that front? Anything new from last week?
No, it's just a waiting game at this point, circle January 9th and hope the teams are out there. Some of them are practicing, some of them are not. Some of them are practicing in spurts, groups, like the Beverly kids are practicing, but the Danvers kids can't start yet. So they back their opener up to the 18th of January. So that's about a week and a half. So just let's, I think everybody's trying to celebrate Christmas as best they can. And, we'll get the sports here in a couple of weeks. I mean, the NFL playoffs will be in full swing before we get some games here. And that's not a bad thing. Time flies when you're having fun, as it were.
Nick, what about yourself? Any news on basketball coming up here in the next week or so?
No, not since last week. I mean, more of the same on the basketball front. Going to be opening up in early January for most teams. We will have Fenwick opening up this coming week, both the boys and the girls hoop teams. I believe they got Bishop Stang on Monday. Is that right, Phil?
Yes.
And then they got 2 other league games throughout the week, Wednesday and Friday against, I believe it's Archbishop Williams and St. Mary's. So some nice league competition to open things up there for Fenwick to kick this high school hoop season off. I don't know too much about the girls team. They're always pretty competitive. I haven't spoken with the coach yet, but I imagine they'll be contending once again for a league title. And then the boys, right back trying to pick up where they left off last year. They got a lot of talent that's coming back. Jason Romans in particular, he's a great player, going to be one of their veteran leaders now. So should be a good season for both Fenwick programs.
I know you guys ran a story this week on the Masco boys basketball coach, Brian Duplessis, who's taking a year off, and his assistant, Steve Heinz, will be taking over Masco boys basketball for this season, at least.
Yeah, that's right. So Heinz has a long history of coaching. He played at Gordon College, ended up coaching there. Then he took a job down in Florida, I believe, Miami, before coming back here. And he was going to be the head assistant for Duplessis this year at Masco, but with, some COVID concerns within his family, Brian decided to take the year off. He's still going to be in contact with the team and the coaches and everything pretty much on a daily basis, but he won't be, at the facility, at the gym, practicing or going to games or any of that. And Steve Heinz will kind of take the reins there. Interesting facts about Steve Hindsight. This wasn't something he really spoke about, humble guy. We didn't get too much into his career, but he was the leading scorer at Gordon College all time up until this past year when Eric Demers broke that record. He had, I know he still holds the record for most points in a single game with 54. So had a really nice career there and good basketball mind. I think he'll slide in just fine with the Chieftains this year.
Terrific. As far as I know, the newspapers, you guys at the Salem News have been running your all-decade teams this past week with girls soccer, the field hockey, boys soccer, and so on. Any particular notes out of that? Let me ask you this here. I'm puzzled with the decades here, Phil, because, I'm looking at 2020. That's like the start of a decade to me. You know what I'm saying? But you're just going back 10 years, basically, is what you're doing, or 11 years or whatever.
Yeah, no, we're basically going 2010 to 2019. And in most cases, I mean, there have been a few where we play a little bit fast and loose with the rules, but for the most part, we kind of have a standard where you have to have played at least 2 years in that decade. So if you are a 2010 graduate or even 2011, you might be borderline, but if your case dictates it, like I know without giving any information away that on Nino's team that ran on Thursday, the boys soccer, we had a player who had such a dominant senior year, and it was in 2010 that he and I talked about it. And we decided, we got to put him on there. He merits, being an all-decade guy. So, but for the most part, it's been guys just in that. Guys and girls, I should say, that displayed dominance in that year. Willie's girls soccer team was meticulously researched. I mean, he is the undisputed king of girls soccer, not only coverage, but stat keeping, both in our area and I think far beyond that. And the team he put out was outstanding, full of great not only scoring numbers for the players themselves, but also, just historical facts and the combined records of the two coaches we picked as coaches of the year, and just a really remarkable job. And we had field hockey earlier in the week. We have wrestling coming up on Monday and golf on, is it Wednesday, Nick?
Yep.
Golf on Wednesday. So it's been fun doing those. It's not something we normally do. So again, it's a plus to come out of COVID. And I do think, we've had these ready to go for a while now, but I think we were smart to kind of hold on to them until now when it was a little bit of a lull in the schedule to run those now. And people get excited about these. And so it's worked out pretty well.
Not easy to pick these kids. There's some definites, there's some that you're like, oh yeah, that's a no-brainer. But once you get down, it's tough to narrow it down and leave kids off. I mean, it's the same thing with All-Stars every year, but with these all decade, it was challenging.
See, I would worry that you would, you leave, it's easy to flip through the data and stuff, and you leave out a year. I mean, it's easy, there's so much out there. I mean, all these schools, all these players, all these years. It's just an incredible thing. Matt's smiling here, but
Good. No, I mean, and it was good that we spread them out. I mean, you talk about the end of the decade, and so like last January, before all the shutdowns, we ran boys hockey and girls hockey decade squads. And assumed I would do like baseball in the spring, maybe football in the fall. Sandwiched in between all of our games, all of our regular stuff, right? And then of course everything shuts down, and this was a good club to have in our bag, so to speak. So I think it was cool the way that they were spread out. We've kind of been running them now for the full year, because I think the girls and boys hockey were in January last year, if not February. So that means we've had at least one sport kind of looking back on those 10 years for all 12 months, which is probably longer than we wanted to, right? But that's a long award show. The Oscars never goes that long.
Nick, you must love that reference, a club in the bag that he just
Yeah, I
used,
like
huh?
that. That was good. I'm gonna have to steal that one.
I did not make it up, so you can, feel free to rent it out.
Yeah,
I'll keep it in the back pocket.
keep it in the bag, whatever. Yeah.
We know, I'm curious, I haven't heard anything about this. I guess there's a couple of schools that still aren't playing in the winter. I mean, have they relented on voting for all-stars and MVPs in the NEC this winter, or is that still going to be like, verboten, as it were?
Not that I know of. And by the way, excellent use of the term verboten. But
Well, it is Christmas, so we have to talk about the Belschnagel, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. What's the song that not Oh Bethlehem, oh Tannenbaum. That's German, isn't
That's
it?
right. Yeah, that's right.
Tannenbaum.
I don't know what.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard that. Although I am seeing that, we've heard all along that like, oh, Lynn is done for the winter, same as the fall and whatnot. But I'm still seeing on new schedules that I'm getting potential games for basketball with classical and English on there. So maybe there's some hope for those schools. I don't know that. Maybe they're just placeholders in case they want to keep them so that any last minute, chances that they might be able to salvage their seasons are still held. And if not, there's a backup plan where I think I had mentioned a couple weeks ago, let's say if Beverly is supposed to play classical one night and Peabody's supposed to play English, well, Beverly and Peabody just play instead kind of thing. Maybe they're just placeholders for those, I'm not sure, but it would be great if we could get the two Lynn schools involved too. And then maybe, Willie, we could do that with, with all-stars and whatnot. I mean, we had no problem picking them, but
I was gonna say, I mean, I didn't know if we had any, we go around the table, like any preseason MVP candidates, that kind of stuff, if anybody comes to mind, if it's too early for such foolishness. I was just scrolling through some of the MVPs as we talked about the all decades. I was, gee, I wonder who's going to win it this year,
Well, what sports are we talking about?
Well, any really. Track, indoor track. No, I
well, I mean, I would say, right off the bat in the Northeastern Conference, if you're talking hockey, the front runner probably has to be someone like Will Shull of Marblehead. He missed half the last season with an injury and still put up huge numbers, on a point per game basis anyway. And I would think a healthy Will, he'll not only finish with more than 100 career points, but also put up big numbers for what figures to be another strong Marblehead team. Girls hockey, I don't know. What do you think?
I know it's kind of wide open. I mean, he graduated a lot of big scorers last year. Certainly Jen Flynn there in Peabody is probably going to be the only kid that hits 100 this year. Could be some new goaltenders coming out for the various teams. There were a bunch of those that graduated, so that's interesting. I think one kid that sort of could have a breakout year scoring wise is Jamie DuPont there in Beverly. She's been around for a few years now and is really coming to her own, had a decent field hockey season. So that's a kid to watch for sure. I think as far as
field hockey season. Yeah.
Yeah. I think as far as the NEC goes, certainly if Mia Sala there plays for Gloucester, she's going to score a lot of points. Certainly a kid that Nick probably knows a little bit more about from field hockey and whatnot that could win the scoring title. And I think Mia Martucci there in Winthrop is probably a big time candidate for a league MVP if they have one as well. I think Winthrop probably has the most veteran players up there. And, Butch Martucci's team is, probably atop the preseason coaches poll, if you will.
Yeah, NEC hockey, I said Jack Costanzo from Gloucester would be another one right there. He's only a junior. He's 9 points. He had 91 career points in only 2 years. So if they play, 10 to 15 games, he's got a good chance to, getting over that 100-point threshold this season. I don't think a junior has gotten over 100 points at Gloucester in about 25 years. I think Daryl Seppala was the last one. Oh, no, sorry. Paul Mees was the last one in the late.
I was going to guess Mario Orlando. Okay.
Fun fact. Mario Orlando's son is a freshman on the team this year.
Holy cow. Is he really?
One of those coming up. Yeah.
Oh my God. That shows you I'm getting old. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm surprised Jack came back. I thought for sure he would be gone after his
I
sophomore
thought
year.
too,
So
to be honest with you.
that's a huge boon for Gloucester.
You gotta wonder if that's pandemic. I mean, where you gonna go in the pandemic, right? I mean, you go to the private schools and their season's canceled, so you're actually better off with the public schools. Well, unless you go to a private MIA school, but we'll leave that for another day.
Yeah. Crooks, what about, Nina, what about in NEC hoop? What do you think?
NEC. Well, if Lynn plays, English still has plenty of talent. I'm looking at Gabe Copeland from Beverly, though. I think he's going to make a big leap this year. He was really good for them down the stretch last year as a freshman, just a knockdown shooter, big physical kid. He's only going to be a sophomore, but I think he makes a jump this year with, Jack Crowley and Duncan Moreland now out of the picture. So from Beverly, I like Gabe. I'm trying to think outside of Swampscott. Andrew Augustin is back in the fold. He's a great player. It seems like he's been around forever already because he was starting as a freshman pretty much, but they'll be back. Not really quite sure about Peabody. They seem to, bring in someone new every year. In the Cal, let's see, Hamilton Wenham. They got some good guys coming back. I like Marcus Norden. He's a junior. He scored a lot last year. Good rebounder. He's going to be a good player. And then their leading scorer from last year, I believe, was Hutchinson. And I believe he is back as well. So, there's some good talent. And then I mentioned Jason Romans for Fenwick. St. John's Prep has Aiden Callahan back. He could be a player of the year candidate in that conference. So, yeah, those are some names to look out for early on here.
Nick, go ahead, Phil.
The girls basketball, I've been trying to read up a little bit on that in the last few days. It seems like there are some good candidates coming back there as well, who could have impact seasons. There was that great freshman at Swampscott from a year ago, Nia Morgan, who I think was an all-conference player as a freshman for the Big Blue. And she obviously would be somebody to keep an eye on. A couple of kids from Marblehead too. You get Layla Walton, who was an all-star last year. You have what's her name? Livy Fillmore is another player for them, and the big center, Emily Clow. She's a ball player too for them. Maddie Erskine, another one. Liv Fillmore, I'm sorry, is from Masconomet. Erskine is from Marblehead, and Amber Kirakopoulos, she's back too, right, for Peabody Willie. She's a senior this year. I want to say another center in the league.
Yeah, well, she's battling an ankle issue, but I mean, Morgan Bavardi is the kid, right? I mean, this is a kid. How many threes did she hit in that game in her grandfather's tournament?
True.
Years ago? I mean, she broke some kind of record. That's the kid.
Yep, she would be somebody I would mention here as well.
At Masco.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And who was Kylie McCarthy of Beverly too. She was an all-star a year ago. Good little point guard, runs the floor really well. More of a facilitator than a scorer, but certainly an impact player for the Panthers. So a lot of good girls basketball talent coming back this year in the conference.
Yeah, I would say shooting wise, Taylor Betancourt for Peabody, who hit the game-winning buzzer beater there.
That's right.
Great game against Beverly last year. I think she's going to be either a sophomore or a junior. And her cousin, one of Mark's daughters, is going to be a sophomore there in the middle. So you got a whole wave of Betancourts coming up, and if they play anything like their uncles and their dads, that's going to be a fun team to watch over the next few years.
Didn't she hit the buzzer beater in the game that for Beverly had like 39 points and scored 1,000 points? Last year was that Anderson last year?
Haley went over 1,000 in that game. And,
yeah, that's right.
Just a shooting, going back and forth like Curry and Lillard or something. I mean, they put on a clinic in that game. And, I know Gene DePlacido, our great correspondent there, said it was, one of the best shooting games that she'd seen in recent years. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I know out of your area, but the Winthrop girls basketball team, I can't think of the names yet on the team, but they were a very young team, but very solid team. They might be heard from this year. Who knows? And Nick, I want to go back to Beverly. Who was the, I don't have my scorebook with me right here within arm's reach, but they had a big guy who was not Crowley or Moreland, young guy, younger player, who had a couple of standout step-up games for them. So I'm thinking we're going to hear from him this year.
Yeah,
So,
Austin Air.
yeah,
He will be back. Austin Air. Tall kid, really good in the post. Played a lot for them last year, but didn't need to do as much, like you said, because they had Crowley and Moreland's kind of doing most of the damage offensively. But he's another guy to look out for. And I was just thinking, too, I left out Salem, but pretty much their whole team comes back. They had a lot of juniors last year. So, Tom Doyle's son there, Ethan, he's a great shooter. You got Bobby Jellison coming back, another great shooter and defender. Guillermo Pimentel, their point guard, really nice little player. And so they're going to be right in the mix again as well, I imagine.
Yeah, Gloucester boys too. Got to give a shout out to. They got 4 starters back, and the one starter who's not coming back is a transfer from Rockport, Gavin Hilliar, 6'5" big man who averaged 22 and 12 last year. So he's
going over to Gloucester, huh? Interesting.
Yeah, he gets inserted into Gloucester's lineup. That's bad news for Rockport because they had everybody back from last season, and now they lose their best player to Gloucester.
Yeah.
But Gloucester boys are looking pretty stacked. 2 all-stars back in the lineup, and then Hilliar was an all-Cal player last year, first team.
Who's the shooter they got over there?
Zach Oliver, and they got
Oliver.
Byron Thomas, who's kind of like an all-around swingman. He's back for his junior year. He was an all-star last year, too.
Okay.
Nick, you may disagree with me, but you got English up at one level, but the rest of the Northeastern Conference looks like could be very competitive this year. You never know what could happen from game to game, this year.
I agree. I mean, I don't even know. I haven't spoken with Thad Broughton yet, but his Peabody team's going to look a whole lot different. They had a ton of seniors in their lineup last year, so I don't know what's going to be going on with them. But I think overall pretty competitive for sure.
All right, gentlemen, we're running short on time here. Looking ahead to the new year, any New Year's wishes or I don't know why I threw that out there to put you on the spot, but anything else you guys want to talk about as we kind of say so long to 2020 here?
Yeah, I want to say something, not so much goodbye to 2020, good riddance kind of thing, but somebody that we all know and love. And, sometimes if you have a birthday around the holidays, it can get kind of lost in the shuffle a little bit. But on Wednesday, it was Rose Raymond's birthday. Rose, the wonderful photographer. Most people know her for her work with St. John's Prep and Bishop Fenwick and Peabody and Danvers and things like that. But Rose is all over the place. She's super giving to a lot of people, gives of her time and whatnot. And she's just a good person. So happy belated birthday, Rosie.
Yeah.
The best. None better.
I second that.
Yeah, very dedicated. I've taken my camera. We're doing some features over the last few years, and it's always nice to be able to work next to her and chat up the games and stuff with her when you're at a game. Yeah.
Yeah, Rose is great.
Yeah. Well, on that note, gentlemen, wish you a happy new year, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, boys.
Happy New Year, everyone.